Hey, Taylor? I don't know if you can hear me in there. Can you hear me? How about now? I think I got
No,
you now.
still can't see you, but I can hear you.
Okay, let's try this real quick. Let's take that down. How about there?
Oh, there you are.
Here we are, and we're live. How's it going?
Doing all right. How about you?
Good. This is another at-home exclusive. My guest here today, of course, the lead singer of the Pretty Reckless with a new single out called "Death by Rock and Roll." Taylor Momsen. Thanks for hopping on with us. Welcome to my kitchen table.
Thank you. Good to be at your kitchen table.
Yeah, this is what it would be like if you and I were having dinner in my kitchen, except there would be leftover Mexican food in between us.
Nice.
And
Mexican food is my jam. I like it.
Same, exactly. So, how have you been enjoying the quarantine?
Uh, doing kind of doing the same as everyone else, I think. Been playing a lot of guitar, trying to work out at home, watching Netflix and releasing music, trying to figure out how to do press from home and figure out all this live stuff, which, sorry, I'm a little late. I couldn't figure it out on my computer because I haven't opened up a computer in, I don't know, years since this all started. So I had to switch to my phone, but I'm here, made it.
Yeah. So I don't know what part of the country you're living in. Have they loosened any restrictions where you are? People able to go out and eat yet?
I guess a little bit. I'm in Maine, East Coast, but I'm such a hypochondriac that I'm not leaving my house. So loose or not, I'm not going anywhere. I was a freak about this before this started. I mean, I was a Purell nut and I flew with masks and so this is kind of my worst nightmare, but it's all right.
I think more people feel that way than you would think, actually. More people are afraid than you would know. But has being under a stay-at-home order given you any sort of creative mojo?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I guess I'm kind of in promotion mode right now, if that makes any sense, just because we just put out Death by Rock and Roll. So it's kind of like switching gears. Because we just spent all this time the past, 3 years making a record. So now it's switching gears to being more public. Making the record, I was very isolating towards myself. I didn't go into public at all. So I was actually very much looking forward to getting out into the world again and touring and stuff, but it's just kind of a prolonged at-home stay until everything calms down a little bit more.
So the new song is "Death by Rock and Roll." That will be the name of the album too, right?
Yes.
So this is the title track. We've been hitting it really hard here on the X in Rockford. Let's talk about the cover art for a second. Let's pull up that image real quick. This image oozes rock and roll. I mean, it's got rock and roll pouring out of it. What was the goal with this image?
It's a lot of goals. I mean, the first thing was we need to make something that's as bold as the song. So that was the first thought.
Right.
Secondly, we shot it in New York, actually right before quarantine started. So luckily we got this photo shoot in, and I got out of New York kind of right in time. It was kind of fortuitous timing, but we filmed it with Danny Hastings, who's a good friend of mine, great photographer. He's the guy who actually shot the Going to Hell cover as well. So it was great to work with him again. He's so fun to work with just because he's such an artist. So he really he takes my vision and just does everything he can to see it through. But there's a lot of kind of weight behind this image in the sense that it's paying a lot of homage to lost friends and such. And there's a lot of little hidden Easter eggs inside it that people might not notice yet, but will make a lot more sense when the full record's out.
Yeah.
But it was kind of a departure for us to do something kind of so, I guess, bold, just for lack of a better word, where it's kind of almost 80s throwback, which isn't really my thing, but it was kind of in memory of Kato, who loved all that stuff, and just there's a whole bunch of personal meanings to it, but it was just make something bold and rock and roll and something is thrown in your face.
Sure, and that it is. It's very rock and roll, and I think any kind of good art, there's more to it than meets the eye, to the untrained eye. Anyway,
certainly.
About the song itself, on the surface, speaking of which, it may seem like kind of a morbid song, but that's not where you're coming from, is it?
No, it's kind of our Death by Rock and Roll is kind of our battle cry for rock and roll. It's our rock and roll anthem of you know, to me, rock and roll represents freedom. It always has. It's rock and roll is it's a lifestyle. It's an ethic. It's a mentality. It's a religion. It's everything. So it's live your life your own way, live it how you want, and go out your own way, and don't let anyone tell you different. And it's kind of the statement of Death by Rock and Roll is freedom.
Yeah, you definitely have to make a statement. I think that's important with any kind of art, any kind of music. You got to have something to say.
Certainly, if you have nothing to say, why are you talking?
Right.
Or singing or whatever.
Well, I mean, I got to say, there's a lot of stuff out there where I don't know if people actually had anything to say when they set out to do it, but you know, and in the scope of it all. But as far as the rest of the album goes, we have no idea when it's going to come out, and I assume you don't know yet either.
Don't know. Don't have a set release date for the full album, but I can tell you that Death by Rock and Roll is simply the beginning. It's the first song on the record. It's the first song released, and there's going to be a lot more songs and material and stuff coming before the full album. So it's not. This isn't like a flash in the pan and we're disappearing again. We're back.
Right, that's great. That is really good news. I know a lot of people who would find that to be really great news. Some guests on this album, I take it. Matt Cameron joins you for a couple of tracks.
Matt Cameron and Kim Thale of Soundgarden are on a song called Only Love Can Save Me Now, which is one of my favorites. I can't wait for people to hear that. And well, they're all my favorites, so that's not fair to say. But
right.
but and also the great Tom Morello lends his chops, his amazing axe chops to a song called "And So It Went." So
I assume
for people to hear it.
I assume anytime Tom Morello agrees to do anything with you, you take that as a positive, right?
Well, it's certainly not a negative. So
right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so Taylor, without getting into too much of the gloomy details, I let you give as many of those as you feel like sharing. But when you recorded this album, you were not in a great place. You took a lot of time off. Did diving back into work help you?
It did. I wouldn't say diving back into work is the wrong way to say it. But I went down there for a while. You know, a lot of loss and a lot of grief, and I didn't quite know how to handle or process all of that. And so when I'd kind of given up, for lack of a better word, I turned to music just because it's what I always have done, and it really saved me. It made me, I started writing, not really even intentionally or with any sort of goal in mind. Things just started kind of pouring out, and that kind of turned into what the record that you guys will eventually hear. It was kind of my form of therapy, and the way I kind of worked through it was turning to music again. And I know it sounds so cliche, and I've said it a billion times, but I can honestly say that rock and roll legitimately saved my life in every sense of the way.
Well, we're glad that it did, for sure.
Yeah.
Because there's like you think back, with losing Chris Cornell, losing Chester Bennington, and so many more. I imagine I guess the question I want to ask is, how is the outreach within the rock community? I mean, is there a tight-knit family there, people you can reach out to within the rock world?
I mean, there's definitely a unity in rock, that there's definitely a support system where everyone kind of feels like they're going through the same thing in different ways. I mean, I'm very much a private person, so I'm not really one to ask for help or reach out. So it took me kind of realizing that maybe I don't know. It took me doing it for myself to kind of get out of where I was, if that makes sense. Like I had to take the first baby steps to move forward. But there was certainly a lot of, when I went looking for support, there's a ton of it.
That's great. That's great to know. It's got to be pretty tantalizing to have an entire album in the can and not being able to play it live in front of thousands of people. How do you feel about that?
It's a bit brutal. It's not ideal. It's very strange releasing music in quarantine in these, ridiculously unprecedented times. And yeah, I mean, putting something out, putting Death by Rock and Roll out, it came out, and you call the band and we go, "It's out, guys. Good job. Cool.
Right.
Now what?
Now what? Right.
Now what?" I mean, not being able to play feels feels very bizarre because you can't complete the circle. I mean, you go through so much, writing the songs, recording the songs, putting the album together, the track listing, every little detail to it, and then the circle's complete when you put it out into the world and then play it live. And there's, we're obviously missing that element right now, but it's all right. It's just a waiting game,
Yeah.
Live music isn't gone forever. It's just paused at the moment.
Yeah. Well, now that we're talking about touring, our listener Lexi, she wanted to ask a question here. What or who would you like to tour with when operations are safe again?
Ah, man. Well, we had some amazing touring lined up before all this started. I mean, it was all the festivals in America and Europe. It was Guns N' Roses with Gary Clark Jr. It was the Foo Fighters. It was Pearl Jam. It was, I mean, so all of those people. So good news is I don't think anything's actually canceled. I think everything's just pushed. So it's just, like I said, it's just pause right now. Everything's just hit pause.
It's a matter of waiting. Yeah, we got to play the waiting game. That's all. None of us want to wait too much longer, though. I can tell you that much. I think
I know. I'm getting Nancy.
Yeah, I mean, this certainly wasn't the end of live music as we know it.
Oh God, no.
No.
It might come back. It might be a little different. There might be some different specs or whatever. Health codes or I mean, I don't know, but I'm sure there'll be some sort of change in the way that what's safe and what's not. But musicians need to play. I need to play. So we'll figure out a way to do it. If that whatever that means.
Now you got to find a way.
Movie theaters or masks or who knows, or Purell your whole body before you walk in the building. I don't know, but
you know what? I know some comedians who are doing shows at drive-in movie theaters. So I mean that might be the way of the future.
Maybe it's like old school but new school.
Right.
Who knows?
Right. Out with the old, in with the older. That's how that's going to work. Right.
Exactly.
So you're a songwriter. Do you find yourself inspired at all by the way things are going right now? You look around the world, you see half the country's on fire. Does that make you want to write?
I mean, yeah. I mean, isn't it? I mean, I hate to say it, but isn't it kind of? It's always on fire. All you have to do is look for it, and now it's just amplified, which I think is great. I think the world is always, inspiration comes from so many places that it's hard to define. You can't, there is no formula. There is no direct path to it. There's kind of nothing. It's simply just keeping your eyes and your mind and your ears just really open to anything that may affect you in some way or inspire you. And it could be something massive, like what's going on in the world right now, which is just massive amounts of change trying to, and that's so inspiring and amazing and should inspire people to write and have a voice and speak up. Or it could be simple as like, my dog looks cute today or something. You never know where it's gonna strike and where it's gonna come from. So it's really just it's kind of the waiting game of just kind of waiting for something to smack you in the face and hoping and praying that comes.
Well, I think the world needs rock and roll right now, and we're very much looking forward to the whole package of rock and roll, Death by Rock and Roll, that you guys have ready to go. We're gonna patiently wait for it as long as we can, and we hope you let us know when it's ready to roll.
Oh, I definitely will, and hopefully it won't be too much longer. I know there's going to be more songs to come, so this Death by Rock and Roll is just the first taste. You
haven't heard the last of the Pretty Reckless, is what you're trying to say.
Not at all. No, we are back, and it's like Pretty Reckless 2.0. I think this is the best record we've ever made, if I may say so myself. So I'm very excited for people.
I trust you more than anybody to tell me that fact. So the single's out right now wherever you stream your music, and of course we're playing it like crazy on 104.9 The X. From the Pretty Reckless, Taylor Momsen, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for sitting down for leftover Mexican food with me. I appreciate it.
I love it. Thank you so much, man. And thank you guys so much for the support. It's amazing.
Thank you very much. Oh, hey, we love you guys.
Well, we love you too, man. Peace and love, and stay safe. Thank you so much.
Same to you. Bye now.
Later.